Yeah, the song's playing, man. Now the microphone's going to pick me up knocking over the song.
Oh, your microphone's not picking up?
Yeah, well, I had that muted, but now we're going to cancel it because we ruined it, but that's okay because it's live. I'm rusty. It's been a few months. But look at Shooting the Breeze with your man, Byron A. Lloyd. I'm him. He is I. I'm here. I'm proud to say, since the last time Lisa's been on here, she's now been elected to the chairman of the St. Francis County Republican Party. So, are you here in the official capacity or just as you?
No, I'm here just as me.
Awesome. Okay, so she's not speaking for all Republicans, so don't freak out.
No, I'll never speak for all Republicans.
Right, so don't freak out, my Republican friends, and email me, which I don't have my email. But we were talking about the executions, and man, Lisa, unfortunately, has a perspective that most people have. She's lived through a tragedy, and you know what I mean. And she's had the chance, I'm sure you had some kind of input when it come to Randy, your ex-husband, about if y'all wanted to execute him or not, right? It's pretty much dependent. It was probably pretty much dependent on y'all, wasn't it?
Yes. I mean, he was going to get the death penalty. They already decided, and then the prosecutor and my attorney, who's really family, Joe Perry, came and said, look, he's going to get the death penalty. We need to discuss this because this is going to, this would go on for at least 15 to 18 years, us having to go to, return to court every couple of years.
Right.
And so I took myself out of that discussion and let my brother make the decision because I didn't want anybody coming later on and saying, oh, well, she still loved him or she had feelings, she didn't want to see him die. I just wanted to take myself out of that decision making. But my brother and I had spoken about it at length because he had small, my nieces and nephews were small at that time. And we didn't want to keep reliving this. I mean, you're not think about it all the time anyway.
Right.
But you're not, we didn't want to have to go through
facing him down again and seeing him and all that. You know what I mean?
No, we didn't want to be the kids being 20 years old, 25 years old at the time. The youngest was 5 and the other one was 8. So we didn't want this going on forever. So we chose, he ended up getting life without the possibility of parole with stacked sentences. Each sentence was 333 years. And then he got 999 years plus 42 years for an attempted murder.
So he's doing 1,000 years almost, right? Technically.
Well, yeah, he's doing actually over 1,000 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, he'll never get out. He's what you call a toe tagger.
Right. I wouldn't want him to get out. That dude's an animal. You know what I mean?
Oh, no. I'm not saying that I want him to get out. I'm saying that he will never get out.
Right. And but I'm sure it's no shock to anybody. I'm against the death penalty. Lisa is for the death penalty, but I think she's softening up in her older age. You know what I mean?
I am softening up in my old age, and I do believe I would have a little bit different views than I have now if I had not witnessed. Everything's always going to go back to what I witnessed.
We talked about this a bunch of times.
I wasn't outside of the house when my mother was murdered. I was in the room when my mother was murdered.
I know, that's horrible.
I witnessed everything that went on in that house.
Man,
and so that changes you totally.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, it does.
It changes the way...
I couldn't imagine, man.
It changes the way you look at these cases, and it's awful funny to me. It's not funny, but these killers, these offenders, they don't give their victims any choices or chances or opportunities or any bargaining chips. They come in and literally play God with these people's lives.
But then they beg for mercy like little bitches when it comes their turn, is what you're saying.
Exactly. They start boo-hooing, where's my leniency? Where's my compassion? They're cowards.
Right.
And have you noticed a lot of times with most of these men, you look on the Arkansas death row and look at how long these people have been in there.
Right, we've talked about this many times, too.
Most of the murders, or women.
Right.
Women or children or, they never go up against somebody equal to themselves.
Right, unless it's black on black crime or white on white crime, like gang violence or, Latino on Latino crime, gang violence. But most of the time when it's a lone killer, it's a rape and a murder of a woman's involved way too often. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. It's somewhat like these. You hear the left; they're big proponents of gun-free zones.
Right.
And we all know gun-free zone that's a myth. That's the only person that's going to keep out of there is law-abiding citizens.
Well, people don't pay attention to that damn sign anyway. If people want to tote a gun, if they're going to tote a gun, Lee said they ain't going to let a gun-free zone sign stop them. You know what I mean? Good or bad. You know what I mean?
No.
They just ain't going to tell everybody.
I don't care. You can make it a knife-free zone, a fork-free zone. My entire point, concerning people that commit these violent crimes, that commit murders, you will never stop them because we have a mental health issue in this country.
Right. And
when someone decides, you can talk all day long about background checks and psyche evals. My ex-husband passed multiple background checks,
right,
passed multiple psych evaluations. When someone gets it into their head that they are going to murder, only God himself is going to stop them. Because, or a good guy with a gun. Somebody come in and physically stop them before they do it.
Right, now I'm not a proponent of that good guy with the gun stops bad guy with the gun theory, but I know what you're saying.
Because that's just like the night when my ex-husband came in. He knew that my brother had my handgun. And he knew that my dad's gun stayed in a total opposite end of the house.
Right.
So he knew he was basically coming into
an situation.
Area.
Right. Well, like you said, most of the times, most people know it's 90% of the time when somebody's killed, they're killed by somebody they know, and most of the time it's a loved one or a family member.
The statistic is around 89 to 9, somewhere the late 80s, 88, 89% of the people are murdered by loved ones or acquaintances.
Right. And like you said,
which is absolutely astronomical.
Yeah, because it just shows you there's a thin line between love and hate. You know what I mean? Obviously, because but when it comes to, I'm just gonna say when it comes to these two dudes, not to get off the sidetrack, but last week these are the same two guys who were appealing for clemency because they said they were too obese to die, and I know they're too
obese and unhealthy, to go through the execution.
And they did say it took them 45 minutes to find a vein in the guy because he was so big, because he was 400 pounds. You know what I mean? Wow, 400 pounds.
You can find a vein. There are veins you can go through the foot. You can go through. There's
right. Yeah, I think they end up going in his neck or somewhere.
Yeah.
But we were talking. I got conflicting reports. I saw where an AP writer said it seemed to be fine as far as execution goes, but then the next guy, his lawyers are all up in arms and got to stay because they said the guy died horrific and he was in a lot of pain. So now they got to stay on him, and his death warrant expires at midnight. And like you said, now they got to go through the whole process and get another death warrant.
Weren't they executing 3 tonight?
No, they're just 2 guys. The other guy got to stay yesterday.
If I'm not mistaken, hadn't the other stay already been lifted?
Yeah, it was elected for the first guy, but see, they got another. Everybody got to stay except for these 2 guys, from what I've read, and then the second guy tonight. Let me look his name up. He didn't. He got to stay after his lawyers appealed and saying he died of excruciating pain. But both of them are rapists.
I thought they just lifted that one for the second one.
Oh, they just lifted the second one?
Yeah.
They might have in the past few minutes. I have to look. You're on top of it like I am, but I know that his death warrant expires at midnight. He'd got to stay, but it didn't sound like.
Well, I guarantee you, Arkansas, come hell or high water, is going to kill. If at all possible,
Jack Jones is who got killed
before midnight.
Right, Jack Jones had got killed. And Marcel Williams is the guy who's supposed to be next. Jack Jones was a white guy. Marcel was a black guy, but both of them have admitted guilt. And I think I read where...
Yeah, the first guy, the white guy, they said he had a lengthy last statement apologizing to the little girl that he tried to murder.
Yeah.
And so he had a lengthy speech.
Right, and and even though both these dudes are rapist murderers, which are two of the most heinous things you could ever do to a human being on the planet, the top two, you know what I mean? The reason I don't agree with death penalties it's for two different reasons. It's for financial reasons, and it's for the fact that I believe if you kill one innocent person, it corrupts the whole system, and that they don't do enough time to get it right. You know what I mean?
Well, not that it corrupts the whole system. It's the best system we have. It's a flawed system.
Right.
And I do agree with you that there are people on death row now that don't deserve to be on death row.
Richard Glossop is doing it right now.
Better for a guilty man to go free than one man to die innocent.
Right, and that's what I believe. But I also believe, like we've talked about this a bunch of times, I think it's harder on the person. I think dying is the easy way out too. I think it's a whole lot harder to live your life in prison, looking over your shoulder, worrying about getting raped or beat or stabbed all the time.
To an extent.
And it's cheaper. I
believe that, depending on who it is and how well they become. I look at it as a lot of these people become institutionalized.
Right.
And because that prison turns into a small city.
Right, it does.
And they are
more comfortable there.
The only punishment to me they get is not being able to leave.
Right.
I mean, they can order Big Macs. They can have Pizza Hut on the weekend. They get ice cream. They have television.
Oh, they get Pizza Hut?
Buy all the snacks they want.
Obviously, dude's 400 pounds.
They can get any degree they want to get.
Yeah, but see, that's another big problem. Somewhere, was in the 1920s, and that big prison up in New York when they had that big riot, they went from treating people like slave labor and no, it wasn't Attica. I forget the name of it. I saw a documentary on it, and they had a big riot like in 1910 or something, and it was decided the first of electric chair in the United States. But the whole deal was they treated them people like slaves and used them as slave labor for 7 days a week, 15 hours a day and stuff, and they really didn't teach them nothing or try to rehabilitate anybody. And then that made a big swing to trying to rehabilitate people no more.
I agree with you. I think
they're just warehousing
really
people.
No rehabilitation.
Right.
Now, I believe some people can possibly be rehabilitated. Now, when it comes to murder and fire crime, I think that is something that you are born with. You're born with the inability to understand this is a line I don't cross.
Right. If you're a sociopath or psychopath and you kill for in the commission of a crime on purpose, or you kill just for the sick thrill of it, I believe they should throw away the key. But I know from my own personal experience, the thought of getting gang raped, I'd much rather be executed than gang raped. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
and I ain't saying everybody gets gang raped, but it's a possibility. You know what I mean? Like you said, people get used to it and become institutionalized because they went to prison so much or so long.
I've watched several documentaries.
Right, it's the only structure they get. Right, it's the only structure they get.
Men will have their in prison women, and they don't consider themselves homosexual at all. It's just they're in prison, and
they got to do what they got to do
while they're in prison.
Right, they got to do what they got to do. And a lot of times, rape in prison is all about power. There's nothing sexual to it. You know what I mean? It's a power move, just to let you know who's running things, basically. And you know what I'm saying? But there are people who, you know what they call them, punks in jail, who dress up like women, who commit homosexual acts, and who come right out of prison and go back to being straight. You know what I mean?
Let's get back to the whole
execute,
the death penalty.
Right, I'm with you on it. But like you said, you removed yourself from it. But at the same time, your parents, your father was a minister, preacher, and your mama was a devout Christian. You know, your family was devout, and they were good old salt of the earth country folks. And they were forgivers. They would have forgive Randy. Am I right?
Oh, well, now, absolutely. I'll be the first to say that, that's what I was taught. I was taught that, you have to forgive these people, and it's not something you can force yourself to do. You just have to understand, look, I've got to work through to find this forgiveness.
Right, that's exactly right.
With God's help and with praying, you can find forgiveness for that person. Now, does that mean that they're still not, responsible for their crime?
Right.
No, absolutely not. They still have to pay for their crime. There's still that consequence there.
But see, that's something else I've had a problem with. A lot of evangelicals tend to be the most pro death penalty type folks. And, I was always raised in church to believe that thou shalt not kill, you should forgive everybody, and thou shouldn't seek vengeance because God's the final judge. You know what I mean? And it seems like when you go to the death penalty, that's all up in the air.
There's a difference between vengeance and justice. I mean, God also said obey the laws of the land.
Right, but God didn't mention justice in the Bible. You know what I mean? He didn't cover
it. And the law of the land is if you take a life, you have to adhere to whatever punishment you're given. So it's not vengeance.
For a lot of the families it is.
The problem with the death penalty now, the problem with, number one, it shouldn't take, I think we've got one person in Arkansas that's on death row that's been there for 28, 29 years.
Right.
Since 1989 or 1990. The thing is, as soon as your last appeal is heard, you should be, and you've already received the sentence of death.
Right.
It should take no longer than a year to put you to death, which would put you at around 5 or 6 years being in that system.
Right. And see, to me, well, we've talked about this before. To me, I understand that's exactly why the death penalty is not a deterrent, because you're usually going to die in jail before you get executed if you get the death penalty.
Exactly.
And that's why I believe it should be. If you're going to have the death penalty, I believe it should be shorter than that. I believe you should get convicted. You get one appeal, and all goes down within a year. And if your appeal don't come through within a year of being convicted the first time, they should execute you, because the taxpayers put the bill, and people don't realize this. This don't even sound right, but it's more expensive to have somebody on death row than it is to have a regular inmate. It's cheaper just to put them in jail for life than to give them the death penalty. And that's because all the legal costs and lawsuits and ramifications.
The state doesn't pay that much legally. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Well, whoever's housing pays that much.
Because they don't charge they're not charged for a normal, say a normal attorney fee. They don't have to pay that.
Right.
You're talking about attorney may represent somebody on death row, and they may end up with $25,000 for that case.
Right, but I'm not talking about the attorneys alone. It's more expensive because the taxpayers got to put the bill on the housing, the food, the medical.
I just don't see how it can be more expensive.
I know it don't make sense.
To execute them than it can to house them, feed them, clothe them.
I know.
And so I don't believe that.
I know it was hard for me to believe, but the statistics, you can go Google it, Lisa. It don't sound right.
I'm telling you that
it don't sound right, but it's true.
I agree with you. The statistic does say that.
Right.
I just really don't believe that statistic.
I know it don't sound right, but
it just doesn't sound right.
Because I think on average nationwide, prisoners are average about $40,000 a year at cost to the taxpayer. And I tell
you something else that amazes me. We take better care
of inmates than we do regular folks.
Our prisoners than we do our veterans.
Our veterans, our disabled, our elderly, you know what I mean? Our poor people.
Oh, exactly.
All those folks, you know what I'm saying?
And you know why we take better care of our prisoners?
Because they'll sue us. It costs us more money.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But I did notice that Richard Glossop, I said that I noticed, I've been watching that show, and I forget the name of it, but you've been watching it too. What's that? Killing Richard.
Killing Richard
on the ID Network. And this guy, Richard Glossop, is so obvious he's innocent. I don't know how Oklahoma still tries to stick with the story.
Well, you're exactly right. When I watch something like that's when I have twinges of,
right.
we may need to rethink the death penalty.
Right.
But the majority of people on death row are guilty.
I would agree with that.
His problem wasn't as much with the prosecution, it was with the police officers.
Right, his own lawyers. His own lawyers was just inadequate. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
but it was the police. It was the police department.
But that's what I was going to tell you.
Along with
the crazy prosecutor who was trying to make a name. Yeah, they basically set this guy up, made a name for themselves. But that's what I was going to get back to. The guy I forget his name. The guy who got executed in Arkansas last week. See, his case wasn't as open and shut as these two, in most of these guys' case. This guy, they said, was intellectually disabled, but they said that this guy, his testimony, his conviction was basically on 3 eyewitness testimonies that saw him around the house. That was the main crux of their case. But there was DNA that they could have garnered from his clothes and from the crime scene, and at the last minute, the judge wouldn't let them test the DNA because he said they should have already tested it. And you know what I mean? And then to kind of find out that his post-conviction lawyer, they said, was coming to court drunk when he was trying to appeal. And you know what I mean? That right there should get you another trial if your lawyer was drunk. You know what I mean?
Now, I will say in cases where it's not just, so open and shut, like my ex-husband's.
Right.
I mean, the state needs to afford every opportunity to allow to make sure that person is the guilty party.
Right. And I don't know.
New DNA or whatever.
Right.
Like I said,
that was my argument last week too. That they should go the extra mile to make sure if you can use DNA evidence, they should use it every time or test DNA every time. That way you can be sure. You know what I mean? And what blows my mind is that they weren't sure about this guy, but the fact that if you're a poor man and you go to court and even if you're innocent on a murder charge and you got a appointed lawyer, you're getting the death penalty. You know what I mean? I'd hate to see what the odds are.
I can tell you right now, that's not necessarily the case.
Well, I didn't say 100% of the time, but I bet you the odds are against you.
What I say is, look, I know a lawyer that gets appointed to these cases.
Right.
And he treats his clients as well as he would anyone that he was getting paid, big money for.
Right, and I understand
because
that.
He doesn't believe in the death penalty either, and he fights for these people.
Right, I forget the name of the documentary, but there's a great documentary out that came out on HBO a year or two ago. I think it won an Academy Award like 2 years ago, and it was about public defenders and about how they're overworked and they make no money, and you can still be a good lawyer.
I do know that they make hardly any money with these cases.
They make a pittance what they would have made in private. But here's what gets me. They showed how even you can be a good lawyer, but you're just so exhausted and overworked that you don't give your client a proper defense. You know what I mean? Just because you're just stretched out. And they were showing these lawyers, and they were averaging, these lawyers in New York, they were averaging 1,000 cases every 6 months. How do you work 1,000 cases? You know what I'm saying? That's insane.
Exactly. But in Arkansas, and I'm sure every other state is like this, I wasn't aware. I thought, any lawyer could do a death case.
No, you got to be certified.
That's not the case.
You got to be certified.
You have to be death penalty certified.
Right.
To represent somebody facing the death penalty.
Which is a good thing because it makes it because you would hate to be that guy who gets the public defender who's never tried a murder case. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. And, I'm watching a great show on TV right now. I've been trying to tell you to watch called Trial and Error. And it's based on a murder case. And this dude's never tried a murder case.
I've been watching that show.
It's hilarious.
Came on.
It's hilarious.
John Lithgow.
Yeah, John Lithgow's a genius. But this show is the best written show I've seen on television in a long time. It's kind of like The Office meets the courtroom. The TV show The Office meets the courtroom. But look, I tweeted earlier about how great the show was. And the main writer liked my tweet, man. I thought that was pretty cool. The great thing about Twitter, you can reach out and actually contact, somebody famous or somebody you look up to. And dude liked my tweet. But the show is great. But on the crux of the death penalty, me and Lisa, we've talked about everything. and we've talked about this many times, and it comes down to the fact that I believe that if you kill one innocent person, the whole system is corrupted. It's flawed. You know what I mean? And people are like, screw it. If you could kill one to kill 20 guilty ones, it's worth it. But if you were that one innocent guy, I bet you wouldn't say that. You know what I mean? And that's
that's where my thinking gets really complicated.
Mine too.
Because I'm extremely, I'm economically conservative, somewhat socially liberal. I mean, I'm basically a libertarian.
Right.
Okay?
Well, you can't say that because remember, you're chairman of the Republican Party, you're Republican.
I am, but like I tell people, I support the Republican Party, but the Republican Party is the closest thing.
Right. Here's a quick jab. I don't feel bad. Donald Trump ain't a Republican either.
But
that's pretty good. Come on, man.
I mean, our system is flawed. It needs to be reevaluated. It honestly does. Now, it's the best thing. It's the best system we have.
Right, but it's still screwed up.
It's the only thing we have because we are a nation that we're a rule of law. Now, we no longer do we adhere to a lot of our laws.
Right.
But if you're not a nation of laws, you're a nation of chaos.
Right. But at the same time, most of these main laws were written back when people owned slaves and poor people and people of color were discriminated against. And I believe in institutionalized racism because I've seen it happen, man. You know what I mean?
What kind of laws are you talking about that was written back for
the fundamental laws? You know, the justice system, the fundamental justice system was set up to help out the white guy. It was. You know, that's just how it is. I'm talking about fundamental laws. Your basic murder, rape, robbery, those basic laws. And when the whole justice system itself was set up to benefit white landowners.
Let me tell you, the justice system is set up to where it helps the rich.
Right.
It sees no color. Okay? That's why Lady Justice is blind.
No, it does see color. It does see color, Lisa.
It sees wealth.
But no, it sees color.
I don't care what color you are. You can be black, brown, green, yellow, or gold. And if you've got the
OJ
money,
proved it.
You
OJ
can
proved
kill
it.
anybody you want and get off.
Right, OJ
Simpson.
Right, OJ proved it.
Durst.
Right, look at Phil Spector. He got money in white and he didn't get off. I understand that.
Exactly. So it matters not.
There are anomalies in this. No, it does. It does. It does. But money trumps even ethnicity. You know what I mean? Because money trumps everything in a capitalist economy, just like healthcare. If you got money, you can beat just about anything. You know what I mean? If you ain't got no money, you're probably going to die.
Well, what about that Robert guy and that Lawsup guy in Oklahoma? He's white,
but he's poor.
Give him a leg up.
But he's poor. But he's poor. But no,
that's what I'm saying.
Right,
I'm saying.
I agree with you, Lisa.
That does not play any role in it.
I agree with you, Lisa, but
crimes.
Well, if that's the case,
how big your pocketbook is.
I'm saying race does play a part, but money trumps all. Because if that was the case, Lisa, why do white people commit crimes at a higher rate than black people, but 3 times the amount of black people are in jail? You see what I'm saying? And I know poverty plays a big part of that, but color plays a part of that too. You know what I mean? Because
white people commit more crimes because there's more
white people.
Caucasians than there are.
Right, but they commit more crimes at a higher rate too. Believe it or not, just like they use and sell drugs at a higher rate.
You need to go look up the FBI statistics on crimes and rape.
I have, and it's been, other than a slight spike last year in some crimes, it's been going down for like forever, since the early 80s, late 70s. But what I'm trying to say to you is white people even sell and use drugs at a higher rate, not per person, even though per person too, at a higher rate than black people. But black people get jail time 3 times or 5 times or more likely to go to jail.
The American people close their ears because everything is brought down to rape.
Right.
Every single thing the left wants to bring down to rape.
Right. The media. It ain't the left. It ain't the left. The media plays a big part too.
What?
I said it ain't the left so much because the right plays the opposite of the race card too. The media on the left and right are to be blamed.
What do you mean the right plays the opposite of the race card?
Well, they do play the race card, but they play the you know, they play the I'm not you use the race card, you're the racist tactic. You know what they're saying. When you call nowadays, if you was to call a racist, he calls you a racist for calling him a racist. You know how they do on Facebook. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm calling the opposite of the race card.
It's kind of like if you use a word over and over and over and over, it takes the stigmatism out of it. It's kind of like calling people Nazis.
Right, it takes its power away. That's why I believe in freedom of speech to the utmost. Because if you don't use a certain word, like the word nigger, most people say N-word. I don't, because you give it a special power by not saying that word. You know what I mean? And that word shouldn't have no power.
Well,
and I was taught that through Richard Pryor and George Carlin.
Most people on the left do not want to. I mean, you've got Berkeley. You've even got people that support Berkeley that are coming out saying, now, Berkeley's going a little nuts now.
But it's Berkeley. They've always went a little nuts. You know what I mean?
Well, not to the extent to where, I mean, you even had Bill Maher say, come on.
Right. And Bill Maher's right. The political correctness on the left is just out of control. You know what I mean?
It's absolutely out of control.
And I'll admit that, but I'm a progressive, but like you, I get labeled being a whole lot more liberal than I really am, because I'm physically conservative, but I'm socially liberal. I'm more of a left-leaning centrist, but, you know, nowadays, if you lean left at all, you're a flaming commie, fag, and all that other shit. But, like I say, both sides...
Well, you know, you and I have had this discussion before. In every group,
right,
you've got your extremists.
Right, and that's anything.
You've got your extremists in the liberal group. You've got your extremists in the conservative group.
And there's no more moderates. That's the problem.
And I can't stand either one of them. I'm bad about telling people, look, Trump isn't Jesus.
Oh, don't say that. You're going to lose fans.
You know, and, I have no tolerance for, you know, all of us conservatives said how the liberals just blindly followed Obama and Clinton.
Right.
Well,
and I didn't, and you don't either.
We don't understand that, hey, you know, we can't blindly follow Trump either. I blindly follow no man.
Me either. And I will give you credit. I'll say to all my Facebook friends, as conservative as Lisa is, she's not blindly following, dude. She questioned the same reason we questioned for starting all these wars and trying to pick all these fights and bombing shit. And
let me tell you, a lot of times I absolutely do, and I've gotten some fire for it.
Yeah, you have.
But look, I've not changed. I'm no different than I was prior to, you know what, during the campaign. I said, look here, yeah, I'm going to vote for this man, and yeah, I'm going to put my faith and trust in him until he starts doing things that I question.
Right.
Now, would that be genuine of me to just overlook and not question what he's doing?
Right. No, that's called being intelligent. You should question everything. But even Trump, people don't realize Trump now is kind of connected to these executions because of Neil Gorsuch. Because Neil Gorsuch did the deciding vote to execute dude last week. And if he wouldn't have been on the Supreme Court, it'd have been a tie and this guy wouldn't have got executed. And you know what I'm saying? He's probably going to have to cast a vote on this next guy. So you know what I mean? So already, the one thing I can say Trump has accomplished is having some type of effect, because it's doing what they want to do. It's getting folks executed. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, people are going to try to tie Trump to everything, but I do understand what you're saying. That Gorsuch is the one that, you know, made the final call last week.
And he's going to have to do it again.
You know, going back to the execution, what I wish people would look at, or people that are totally against the death penalty, I wish they would spend a little more time thinking about the victims, what the victims had to go through, how they had to suffer. I mean, my mom did not die instantly. My mama lived 15 to 20 minutes.
I know that's horrible, Lisa.
And you know, where are the people that are marching for her?
Right.
Or people like her?
Right, I totally understand that.
I mean, you know, at what point have you opted yourself out of our society? There has to be a line that we draw and say, okay, game over.
Right,
you've done...
You know, I was just going to say, we've had this discussion, and I've been honest, and I can honestly say, even though I'm anti-death penalty, could I have a 180 on my opinion if somebody was to kill my son or to kill my mother? You know what I mean? Who's to say that wouldn't turn me into a a bloodthirsty, enraged son of a bitch that wants the death for everybody. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it absolutely does change your mindset because we as humans live under such a false sense of security. Even that,
we do.
As long as we do what we're supposed to do, go to church, pay our taxes, don't sell drugs, just live that life on the right side of the track, we're going to be okay.
Right. And that's all part of the American dream.
Many a time I recall saying, well, stuff like that happens to other people. And, until it happens to you, then you realize, you know what?
Right.
Nobody's safe.
That's why.
Because you do not have control over anyone other than yourself.
That's right.
And then anyone can come into your world, whether it be a stranger in a restaurant, a cafe, a movie theater, and start shooting.
Your brother, sister, husband, anybody.
In your own home.
Right, your brother, sister, kids, anybody nowadays. And see, that's one thing I've always been honest about is how I understand, even though I'm anti-death penalty, I understand that I don't know what it feels like, and God forbid nobody ever does. I hate that you have to. It's horrible. But until you walk a mile in your shoes, I don't know what my opinion would be. Somebody, like I said, if somebody killed my mom or my son, who's to say I wouldn't be screaming for their blood? I would probably try to take it in my own hands and wouldn't even bring the court into it and kill them myself. You know what I'm saying? To be honest with you. And that's allegedly killing them myself.
It's kind of like the guy on death row in Lee County, Latavius Johnson, I think his name is, the one that killed
you were telling me about this guy in Lee County.
Officer.
Well, is he the one that killed old girl, the reporter chick?
No, he's the one that killed the corrections officer at Bricky.
Oh, yeah,
he got up on the stand and said that he agrees that he should die, but the state doesn't have a right to kill him. The family should kill him. Right,
yeah, that's which is crazy. So obviously, dude ain't in his right mind. You know what I mean? But
no, he absolutely. I mean, he's just a really, really mean guy.
Yeah, just a cold-hearted sociopath.
This guy's just let me tell you, there's some people that are absolutely in their right. You take, and I'm sorry, I apologize to keep going back to my ex-husband, but when you leave the scene of the crime and you take your battery out of your phone and then you chunk your phone,
right,
and you make decisions
that show that you're thinking not to get caught.
You're getting to the border.
Right.
You knew what you were doing then. Now, I would say that, okay, if he would have sat there rocking back and forth, laughing hysterically, when the police came up, I would have said, absolutely, he's lost his mind.
No, but he showed he was using his mind to get away.
But when you make decisions to leave and hide and do those things, then you are fully functional.
I agree with you there. A lot of lawyers won't. A lot of lawyers, that's that temporary sanity comes in where, he was crazy when he did it, but everything come back to him when he was trying to escape. You know what I mean? He managed to figure it out when he was trying to escape. Huh?
Well, and let me tell you, what gets me is the fact that, and this is still, his mother died last year.
Right.
And he was allowed to leave the prison,
See, I don't believe in that. That's
without
horrible.
Handcuffs.
That's horrible. You never get to see your mama again.
He got to eat McDonald's and Pizza Hut.
Piss on that. See, I don't believe in that.
And
I believe they do life.
And mingle around his mother's funeral like he's absolutely normal.
Right, like he's just out, like he's just mingling, like he's just out from the house. See, when I say give him life without parole, I mean give him hard life. Put him in solitary, no Pizza Inn, no Pizza Hut, no get to go to your Meemaw's funeral, none of that shit. You know what I mean? I mean hard life.
You've got this guy who's an assistant to a warden. He's got it easy.
Right. What was it? It's funny you mentioned that. There's a guy, I forget his name, but he was a famous potter and an artist, like back in the 70s, and he killed a woman, I think, in passion, and they sent him to jail in Oklahoma. It was Oklahoma too. And there was a guard or the warden's or assistant warden's wife living right there. So he starts giving her ceramic lessons, pottery lessons. Well, he's scheming on her too, and he's supposed to be high buddies with the warden because he's not a regular prisoner. He's like a celebrity prisoner. You know what I mean? Because he's famous.
Yeah.
And of course, what does he do? He allegedly kidnaps a girl and runs off to Texas and hides in another name, selling antiques and doing shit for like 5 or 6 years. And then after it was all over with, the lady said she was in kidnapped fear for her life, but she had been living with him for 5 years and having sex with him. Now, you know what I mean? And they let that dude, and the only reason he escaped is because of that woman and because of his so-called celebrity, and he was assistant to the warden. You know what I mean?
I've read 2 or 3 stories over the years where female guards would fall in love with prisoners.
Right, I don't get that.
A couple of high profile cases. Of course,
right.
the
chicken Tennessee
men that they helped him escape.
Right.
They weren't famous or anything like that.
But the chicken Tennessee that nurse.
Honestly, that makes me question: should women really be prison guards?
Allowed in prison, right? But then somebody will make the argument: should gay? Some dude could be gay and do the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
but like I said, I have a feeling at the rate we're building prisons and spending money on private prisons, prison will be automated in 20 years and there won't be no guards and just be robots probably herding people around and closing them up in cells. That wouldn't surprise me at all. You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely correct. After listening to Mark Cuban the other night,
right?
That
would not. That'd be one of the. When it comes to people losing their jobs because of automation, that would be one of the industries that would probably be the easiest to do it in. It's because nobody gives a shit about prisoners.
Anything repetitive. He
right.
said any job that's repetitive.
Right. And nobody gives a shit about prisoners. They'll let you test that shit out on a prisoner. You know what I mean? Nobody cares. And that's my big part when it all comes back to this. I believe that now these 2 dudes are guilty, and I just don't believe it's right for another man to take another man's life. And I know people always say, well, they took somebody's life, but it still ain't right, and 2 wrongs don't make a right in my book. So by killing somebody who's killed, that's another wrong, and 2 wrongs don't make it right. But at the same time, if somebody did it to my mother or son, or you know what I mean, even if it was my wife or whatever, I would probably want to have them killed or kill them with my own bare hands. And what you've seen something that 99.9% of people will never see, Lisa. You know what I mean? And live through it. And
and I'm fixing to say something that might, a lot of people say, wow.
You still got your mind. You're not crazy.
I look at it like this. It's Randy not getting the death penalty, my family choosing for him to have life. That gives him multiple opportunities to come to Christ.
Right.
And
say that's the Christian forgiveness I was talking about. What happened to Christian forgiveness? You're showing it.
That's
what I'm talking about.
And I've said this to people before.
That's Christian forgiveness right there, man.
If, when I die, and I pray to the good Lord, I make it into heaven's gate.
Right.
And I see Randy there. It would make me understand a lot.
Right.
Because I would say, okay, this didn't happen for no reason.
Right.
This got him into heaven.
Right.
Because I'm a big believer in, God allowing people to live as long as they possibly can, to give them as many opportunities to accept that he's their Savior.
Right. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. That's love. That's love and forgiveness, the 2 big tenements of Jesus. And I hear you and your family practicing it and living it through Randy. But what about all the rest of these cats? Well, that's what I don't understand. It always seems like evangelicals who come down on people so hard and demand the death penalty. What happened to good old love and forgiveness?
Now look here, I have no tolerance for people that murder and kill, and if you are given the death penalty, it's that is your sentence. That was the law of the land.
That's the easy way out, though, man. It's the easy way out, though, Lisa.
Of the land, and if that's your sentence, if that is the cards that was dealt to you, number one, you are the one that put yourself there.
Right.
By making the decisions that you made.
Right.
And if it was meant for you not to get the death penalty, God would have seen to it that you didn't get the death penalty.
Right, but not everybody believes that, because I'm agnostic. I don't believe that, but most people do in America. But look at it like this, Lisa. Most westernized countries, and even the Soviet Union, you don't even get the death penalty in Russia for killing people most of the time. I saw a documentary the other day. Dude killed 60 folks in Russia. They didn't even give him the death penalty, man. 60 people over an 18-month period. He was like the biggest serial killer in Russia. But dude, in 18 months, killed 60 people.
Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. There's something messed up about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a lot of people.
I do believe, like I said, I believe in the death penalty. Now, do I want an innocent man to be put to death? Absolutely not. But like I said, this is something that I argue with internally.
Right.
Because
I do too. That's why I want to talk about it, man. Because I used to be pro-death penalty. You know what I mean? And as I got older, I saw things different. And not only that, you see the big flux, between certain countries. Like if you go all the way to the democratic socialist countries, like your Scandinavian countries, Norway and Denmark, you can kill people and get 6-9 years on average for murder. You know what I mean? England don't hand out death, life. You don't get life without parole in England very often. They call it a life tariff in England, but that rarely happens. You know what I mean? Look at what was that dude, the Christian nut that went to that island and shot all them folks dressed up like a cop? Remember that guy a few years ago? You know what I'm talking about? You got to remember, it was huge news. They said it was the dude who was he was blind. He was blonde haired, blue eyed dude in Denmark or somewhere, and all these people were celebrating on the island. Remember, he dressed up like Special Force, a SWAT team member.
No, I don't remember that at all.
Oh, trust me, you do. You just forget about it. But anyway, he called in a massacre and set the law in one place. And while they went that place, he was on the island actually massacring people. And he killed 19 people with a machine gun. You know, that dude only got 40 years, and he killed 19 people. They say he'll get parole before he dies. And that's a little too lenient, you know what I mean? I think you should get life without parole. It should be hard life. You should get solitary, no cable TV, no TV.
They should be sitting down there to Angola in Louisiana.
Oh, down there to the swamp? I've seen that documentary. Yep. That's hard. They whole line down there. That's pretty hard. They put you out in the field down there and work you like a slave. I've seen that.
They take away these people's TV and their pornography and their Viagra and all that.
That's what I say.
It might stop a lot of people from going to prison.
That's what I say, man. Give them hard life. Don't give them death penalty. Give them as hard as life as you can, like the old school bread and water, solitary.
Now,
Good luck to you.
I agree with you there.
Good luck to you.
You've done the most heinous thing that you can do.
Right. So do the most heinous thing you can back to them. Give them no life and 4 brick walls, bread and water. And see you. Good luck to you. You can even die at home. We won't notice for 30 days.
It's kind of like, the guy that killed the elderly gentleman live on Facebook.
Right. Yeah, that dude, Steve Stevens. That coward.
And, of course, he ends up shooting himself. But I actually
What a coward. That's coward. Go ahead.
One of these college liberals come on the news and say, well, the problem is there should be a law against live filming a murder. If they would make it against the law to live film a murder, this man would still be alive.
Really? Some idiot said that on TV?
Yes.
Like murder alone?
And of course, it's one of these new snowflakes.
Right.
They're in college.
Well, there's an idiot on both sides, and if that dude's a liberal, he's an idiot liberal. Because
the guy he was talking to said, well,
what about murder?
Said,
it's against all the murder people.
There is a law. It's called you're not supposed to murder.
Right, it's called murder. But I do believe that Facebook, and I called for it right after it happened. I think there's a small movement doing it. I think Facebook should do away with Facebook Live because nothing good comes out of Facebook Live. Every time I see Facebook Live,
honestly, I do not think that. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think they'll get rid of it. But I was listening to a song in my truck a couple of weeks ago.
Mark Zuckerberg kind of been hitting about it. Go ahead.
I recorded it and tried to upload it to just a little snippet.
Right.
To Facebook, and Facebook
shut that down.
Sent me a message back saying this is copyrighted material by Sting and named the song and you are not allowed to use this, and I was like, what?
Right. And but they do that through algorithms and bots because there's a lot of times they make false calls and shut them down, people's pictures down for nudity and stuff. There really ain't no nudity on it. But that's what I was saying. But as long as you have stuff like Facebook Live, look, every time you hear about Facebook Live, somebody's done been raped or killed on it. But look, just a Snapchat. I have a good friend.
Well, I have
real quick. I was just going to say real quick, Lisa.
And are streamed live on Facebook.
Look at Snapchat. The
you
same
have
thing.
Far many more that aren't having incidences of violence and murder on there.
But the ones that are brutal. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, when I see somebody live on Facebook, they're either drunk or high, or they're talking some crazy shit, or they're going on, or they're preaching or something like that. It's not being used for what it's intended for, where people could talk to each other back and forth, communicate.
Tom Gray's a big fan of Facebook Live.
I never seen any Facebook Live. Well, just like Snapchat, they kill people on Snapchat. There's a good friend of mine from Forest City, and I'm not going to name no names, but you know who I'm talking about. And her son killed somebody and put it on Snapchat just last year. And the boy was a good kid. I don't know why he would do some shit like that, man. Something whooped his head when he got something whooped his head when he got in his teen years. Because when he was a kid,
I didn't know anything about that.
What? It was all over the news.
Oh, yes.
You know.
Yeah, I do.
And he comes from good people. All his people are good people. And I ain't seen him in 10 years. Last time I said he's probably 90 years old. But he didn't seem, there wasn't nothing out of the ordinary about him to make you think, oh, that boy's going to grow up and be a killer. You know what I mean? Like, you can see trouble coming. My mama taught school forever. You can see the kids that were probably going to end up in the penitentiary early in the game. You know what I mean? You can see the ones and he wasn't one of those kids.
I don't necessarily, I'm not a proponent of that you can tell that somebody killing somebody.
And they get, believe it or not only did you can, but I forget what documentary I was watching because we watched too many of them, but there's a professor who built some software like at Yale or Ivy League school, and it could predict. It could take a kid in like kindergarten and test that kid and predict with like 98% accuracy if that kid's going to the penitentiary or not. How crazy is that? That's crazy. They've done it over thousands of kids.
Is this guy in his late 60s, early 70s?
He might be kind of bald-headed, skinny.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, that dude, he's been doing it for, I forget what city, some district, maybe Pittsburgh District Schools or something like that. But
He started looking at the brains of serial killers and killers.
Yeah, that dude, I know who you're talking about, but him or his buddy has also created this software that they've been running through the Pittsburgh City School Districts or something for 20-something years.
Yeah, but then you get into, you don't want to ever cross that line of thought crime to where, you punish people before they even do anything.
I was going to, believe it or not, I was actually going to mention that earlier, that Tom Cruise movie was Stanley Kubrick was supposed to direct it, but Steven Spielberg directed it. What was it? When they were going back to stop people from doing crimes they commit in the future.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh man, I know the movie. It was a Stanley Kubrick movie, but he died before he could direct it. So Steven's Identity, Minority Report.
Minority Report. That's it.
Right. I was actually thinking about that movie earlier and was going to say something. So that's weird that you mentioned it because that day's coming. People don't realize. Minority Report was based on a solid theory by a professor of robotics and artificial intelligence. Just like the Terminator, as crazy as the movie Terminator is, it was based on by a theory of the greatest robotic scientist of all time. You know what I mean? And that is going to happen someday. It's a very good possibility that will happen. They've already got people. I know we're jumping off into another segment, and we've already talked about execution, but this is going to happen. We'll see. That'll be the ultimate. We have robotic executioners. That day's coming. You know what I mean? I promise you.
Yeah.
So, because that way it takes all the human gift out of it. You can just see Reggie the robot in there, the 86 of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know why they're not trying to do it now, because that would be, I would think, the safest, most humane way is to build a robot that give you a lethal injection or give you a little something to finish you off quick. You know what I mean? A shot to the brain stem. Like with an ice pick or something. You know what I mean? Not to sound gruesome. Yeah. Not to sound gruesome, but if you put like a little hydraulic ice pick, like a spike in somebody's hand or the instrument and shot it in the brain stem, they ain't feeling nothing. Kind of like Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men.
That's what
them folks wouldn't feel nothing.
Talking about No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, them dudes felt nothing that he was putting that air tank to their head or that air hose with that little bolt in it or whatever, shooting that air, cow killing them. Them cows don't feel nothing. I've seen it happen before. I've been in a slaughterhouse and I've seen them do it the old-fashioned way where they hit them with a sledgehammer, which is brutal. And I've seen them where they do it with the hydraulic bolt. They put this little thing up to his head, hit it with a bolt, and nothing. It's over with. I don't understand.
Well, on that note, Byron, I think I'm through giving my opinions on the death penalty.
I am too, but I'm just going to stretch it out to almost 11. But I'm about to ready to get off here. But we can sum it up here on that. wouldn't you agree that would be a more humane way to do it? Kind of like euthanasia. You know, people don't believe in euthanasia they believe in it for animals, but not for people. When I believe people should have the option.
What did I tell you earlier?
What's that?
The most painless way of death is to die by beheading. So we maybe need to bring back the guillotine.
Right, that is true. I've read many reports on that, but like I said, so we're still in the same position. Before we get off here, as we're getting off here, do you think they'll be able to kill the rest of these guys, Lisa, or do you think they're going to hang up long enough for this drug to run out, the expiration date on this drug to wear out?
I think they're going to try their best.
I think they are too.
Every one of them that they put on that list.
I think they are too, because they've already proved that they're trying their damnedest. Because they
have till Monday or Tuesday of next week?
Yeah, because I think it runs out on the 1st. But like you said, that's what kind of tripped me out before I could. This is the last thing I'll say.
And you got to look at, even if it goes to the Supreme Court, Gorsuch is going to knock it back down.
Right.
These guys really don't have, any recourse.
So all my liberal friends who didn't voted, who didn't vote, see, already Trump's having an effect on day-to-day life. It's that easy. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I will say that I was extremely pleased with Justice Gorsuch because he replaced my most favorite justice.
Right, which would be right. But I'm just going to say real quick, though, the way they threw a tantrum the other day when they got that one stay of execution, I was like, man, they're trying their damnedest to kill these folks because Arkansas lost their mind. And one last thing, Leslie Rutledge, our Attorney General, she's hungry and wants to be the governor, wants to be somebody big shot. And she's a nut job.
I met Leslie Rutledge.
She's a nut job idiot.
I've spoken to her and I know her.
Right.
And I think she's a lovely lady and I agree with her.
That chick is an embarrassment for the state so far every time she gets on national television. But I do appreciate your opinion and I appreciate your perspective, Lisa, because you got, unfortunately, a perspective like 99% of nobody has.
Just think, we didn't yell or scream or anything.
I know, see, you always get fired up. I told you what will get you fired up, man. But
and so see, I didn't get fired up at all.
No. So, but
hey, there was no Hannity and Combs moment tonight.
Right. And now that Combs is dead, thanks for that. But yeah, and I didn't mention Trump just so I wouldn't get you fired up.
Well, you did. We talked about Trump a little bit.
A little bit. Well, that's his only accomplishment, and it's working out for him because he's getting the results he wanted. He believes in the death penalty now. He used to not to, but he does now. But like I said, I appreciate you, man.
Who knows what he believes in now, Byron? It depends on which way the wind's blowing.
Right. Or whatever Sean Hannity's saying. But like I said...
all right, well, good night to you and your audience.
All right, good night to you, man. You have a good one.
All right, you too.
All right, we out of here. All right, folks, that's it, man. It's been a while. Lisa, come on. Obviously, she's still pro-death penalty, and I'm still pro-not. Because, man... If you kill one innocent man, it corrupts the whole system. I'm sorry. Plus, it costs more to keep somebody on death row than it does in regular penitentiary. And it's the easy way out. Just like Jerry Springer has the final word. This is Ronnie's final word. It's the easy way it's a cop-out, man. Who wouldn't want to get killed? You know what I mean? It's easier to die and get executed than it is to live in a penitentiary. Because it's nothing but a jungle in a penitentiary. And someday you could be the lion, and the next day you could be the gazelle, and that's every day, all day, looking over your shoulder. So there's many reasons I'm against it, but it just blows my mind how most people who are pro-death penalty tend to be Christians. And I know three things Jesus taught more than anything. I was raised in church, know the Bible well, and that is not to judge, not to kill, to forgive, and to love everybody. That's say three things make it four. And then, you know what I mean? That's what he lived and died on. But when it comes to death penalty, folks want eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Even though that, once again, my Christian friends who are listening, a couple are probably listening, in the Bible, the New Testament, Jesus himself contradicts that verse word for word. It says that ain't the law of the land anymore. That ain't the code no more. So I'm glad Lisa was on here. You know, she lived through a tragedy, and she had a different perspective on it, and her family opted not to have her family's murderer killed. They went the Christian way. I got to give it to them. You know, it's a good representation of her parents, man. You know what I mean? Because that's the type of people they were. But I'm going to get out of here, man. I'll be back soon. Next week I should be back with my man and co-executive producer, Bart Shankles, the only paint company in Little Rock. We're probably going to talk about a little religion, stir it up. So holler at your boy. I'm out.